It was yet another week of fuel and devastation for one driver when two drivers made mistakes on track. It benefited another to the victory. And road course racing in the Gen 7 car, typically they're at odds, but was this weekend the best race yet? Let's chat about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Above the Yellow Line. My name is Taylor Kitchen, and right here we do motorsports media your way. Typically we talk about NASCAR all the time, but if you looked at my social media pages, you saw that I was at Mid-Ohio watching some IMSA racing. I really enjoyed the time. If you want to hear more about it, obviously check out my social media pages, but I'll also be talking about it during the live streams that we have during the week. So make sure to follow me on all of those platforms, but for right now, we're talking about Sonoma. You really could break this race into just two parts. I know we have three stages, but two parts. Stages 1 and stage 2, messy, chaotic. We had 8 cautions total during that stage, which made strategy for these teams a freaking nightmare. Just a nightmare, which set them up for a really weird stage 3 where there were no cautions. And honestly, some of it came down to fuel strategy. So because of the chaos of stages 1 and 2, it made for a surprisingly entertaining race in the final stage. What shouldn't surprise us, though, is Kyle Larson winning at his home track, his second win at Sonoma in the Cup Series, and his third win of 2024. Now, this was a 3-man race for the victory when it came down to it, with Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Larson. And this is yet another race that Chris Buescher could have won, but it slipped through his fingers. As the laps were winding down and they were all fighting for that first position, Chris Buescher made a mistake going into turn 10, which left the floodgates open for Martin Truex Jr. to take over that lead spot. Then a lap later, Truex made a mistake on track, which allowed Larson to get that lead spot. And something to keep in mind, too, with this is that Truex and Buescher were on older tires, which already put them at a disadvantage. Larson having fresher tires and obviously just the speed that he had overall this weekend and what Hendrick Motorsports is able to bring to the track was able to get the lead and then, of course, the victory. So Buescher finishes third. I will talk about Truex just in a few seconds, but in that second position, Michael McDowell. We all know that he is fantastic at road courses, especially in this Gen 7 car. And a second place for McDowell is incredible considering the day that he had. I felt like he got caught up in a lot of incidents on track that left him spun or just back in the pack, but he was able to charge forward very well. And a really fun stat I found on social media from Peter Strada, for those of you who like to keep track of just weird trends and weird stats, this is one of them that I really like following. Michael McDowell completes the All 40 challenge. What is this challenge? Well, it's when a driver finishes in every single position that is possible, at least in the NASCAR Cup Series in this case, and Michael McDowell is one that did that. So even though he didn't get a win, maybe he can celebrate this because I think that's pretty cool. Moving right along, though, to 4th place, Chase Elliott. 5th, Ross Chastain. 6th, AJ Allmendinger. A great weekend for the Kaulig organization altogether, with Allmendinger's result here. And then, of course, SVG getting back-to-back wins from Portland and then winning at this track as well. A great win, too. It was a really entertaining race. So overall, a really good weekend for Kaulig in Xfinity 2 Cup. 7th place, Ryan Blaney, and I will be quite honest with you, I was shocked at the speed that Penske brought to Sonoma considering some of their past results. Ryan Blaney, for instance, he had one top 10 in the past 10 road course races that we have had, not just at Sonoma, but in the NASCAR schedule, period. He has not done the best, so when he was able to lead practice and qualify really well, I was stunned. Overall, though, this is a really good result for Ryan Blaney, who ran out of gas during last weekend's race, which resulted in a poor finishing position. The race before that, he did not finish. So a much-needed day, got some stage points. That's all they needed. 8th place, we have Tyler Reddick with his 3rd top 10 in a row. The 9th, Christopher Bell, seemingly the only Joe Gibbs Racing driver that did not have issues during Sunday's race because, my goodness, the issues started early and they lasted all the way to the checkered flag. On lap 3, Denny Hamlin's engine just blew. No warning at all, just blew, and he was out of the race. On lap 16, Ty Gibbs had a tire go down. He slammed into the front stretch wall, did not finish the race. And then Martin Truex Jr., I told you we'd get back to him, was in contention for the lead, in contention at least for a top 3. He is the reigning winner at this track from 2023. With 1 to go, he ran out of gas. And then I saw all these videos posted on social media of him slowly crossing the finish line. Where's Christopher Bell when you need him, based on last week? But my goodness, just a disappointing result for Martin Truex Jr. following that. That one's going to sting. Definitely going to sting. It has been a really rough season for that 19 team. So Bell seems to be the only one that had a positive day from that in that 9th position. And in 10th, Todd Gilliland. Again, cannot say enough good things about Todd. Just signed a multi-year extension with Front Row Motorsports, so very excited for him and his future and putting in really good results. He got points in both stages, leaving the track with 31 points to add to his driver championship standings, which is awesome. There are a few other finishing positions I do want to highlight, with Zane Smith finishing in that 15th spot. That is his best finish this season so far, which is wild for me to say, but it is, so I did want to highlight that. A very good job for him on his birthday. Happy birthday to Zane Smith. Joey Logano in that 21st position. Didn't start that way. Joey Logano led this race from the pole, and then after the Ty Gibbs wreck, Paul Wolfe pulled into pit road for an early pit stop, and then basically a few laps after that pit stop, he got caught in a caution in an incident that got him with damage on his car. So a weird strategy. I could not figure out why they decided to pit that early. I think they were trying to get ahead of any issues, trying to do something different than the other teams. And then, of course, getting caught in an incident kind of ruined that. Outside of Gateway last week, Joey's last top 10 was at Martinsville. He mentioned last week post-race that when you're fighting for like 20th place, it's a bit miserable. It's a kick in the you-know-what. I mentioned this quote last week that he said after Gateway. It's going to apply to this race too. They had kind of everything right in front of them to have a solid day. Of course, we don't know what would have happened as the race continued if Joey Logano didn't pit early like he did. But still, you kind of had the lead. You had everything right in front of you to have at least a top 10 day. And I felt like they just kind of threw it away with a really weird call. So 21st for Joey Logano. Let's talk about Kyle Busch in that 17th position. He could have had a top 5 day. With 1 to go, he had a top 5 car. And then Ross Chastain got into the back of him, and Kyle Busch spun out, finished in that 17th position. Not a good season for him. We've talked about this over and over, so I digress. But 17th finish for Kyle Busch. And then the supercar stars struggled a little bit. Cam Waters in the number 60 did not finish this race due to a suspension issue. And then Will Brown also struggled during this race. He was actually one of the biggest movers during the first stage. Unfortunately, though, around lap 32, he ended up spinning out. And then from there, he might have had some car issues and other things happen. Unfortunate that he was only able to finish in that 31st position based off of what day I think he could have had. So that's your top 10 and other notable finishing positions. Now it's time to rate this race above or below the yellow line. And I will say, because of the chaos in stages 1 and stages 2, I think it set us up for a really interesting race for stage 3. I'm reminded of last year and just all the racing we've had with this Gen 7 car at road courses and how unhappy we've been with it. And especially with last season and the regular season when we did not have those stage breaks added in, we were begging for cautions. We were begging for some type of strategy to play out, but actually, with the lack of stage cautions, we didn't really have a lot of strategy. So having the stage breaks back was ultimately very nice. And then, of course, like I said, because of all the issues in stages 1 and stages 2, we got a lot more than we bargained for, I think, than anything else we would have gotten at this track prior. I think the Repave also added intrigue to this as well. Sonoma is really a tire management type of track, but when we repaved it, it kind of leveled the playing field. It's not really a veteran's playground anymore. I think anyone could have won this race, and we saw that with Truex, Buescher. Reddick did really well for the start of the race. Elliott was doing pretty good. McDowell finishing in that second position is obviously really good. So at the end of the day, I really do think that the Repave added to the success of this event. So all of this said, I do think it was one of the best road course races that we've had with this Gen 7 car. I will say, if I'm remembering correctly, I did actually find the Indy road course last season pretty entertaining, I'm not gonna lie, but this one was really good. I'm gonna give it a 71%. It might be a little too high, but it's definitely above the yellow line. That does it for this episode of Above the Yellow Line, but before we go, I would be crazy to not talk about this being the last broadcast for Fox's portion of the NASCAR schedule for this season. We give Fox a lot of crap. I think the fan base just has not been a fan of the Fox broadcast the past many years, but especially this year, I feel like I've seen a lot more hateful comments online towards the whole production and everything like that. As somebody who has some experience at the college level, I might say, working in live sports broadcasting, whether it's for radio, TV, in front of the camera, behind the camera, whatever it is, it takes a lot to put on these productions, a lot that people just don't realize until you really are in the thick of it and you're going with the flow. So I will say, though we might be at odds with the production value and things like that, I do really appreciate everything that the Fox production team, from the production team on Race Hub to those that work the live events every single weekend. I appreciate all the hard work that they do. To Kevin Harvick, a really good job in his rookie season being full-time in the booth. Clint Boyer, Mike Joy, fantastic in the booth. And of course, the pit reporters, everyone in between. I want to thank them so much to their dedication to the sport, all the traveling, everything in between that they have done for bringing us NASCAR on Fox. So thank you for everything that you have done. Now we are moving on to NBC, and I am so thrilled. I'm very excited to see NBC's coverage with Lee Diffie in the booth. I'm thrilled about that. I am super excited. So very excited to get to Iowa, where NBC's coverage will begin. And as we lead up to the race weekend, I am sure we're going to have some news stories break, so make sure to follow us on TobyChristieCom for more NASCAR news updates and everything in between. And of course, make sure to check out AboveTheYellowLine.com for more about us and to get your ATYL merch. As always, make sure to check out our live stream to get in on the conversation at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Thursday. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of Above the Yellow Line. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and families, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.